Alright, what's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the TMossBoss Show, and welcome to another edition of Relationship Advice. Yeah, this is a story that caught my eye on Reddit because I'm like, nah, man, it's one of those things where I'm like, I know that there are people out there that are extremely close with their animals. And that's one thing about it where it's like, you're probably going to come across a person that might not be all that friendly upon animals. And so you are going to probably be left with the choice. And that's the thing where I'm like, I feel that like with animals, like they don't really understand what's going on. It's like, it's just, they look up, there's another human in the house and then all of a sudden they're leaving and things. And it's like, that'll be confusing. It's messed up, it's sad too. But I'm like, and I guess like somebody were to put me in that situation and be like, oh, what would I do? I probably would be like, nah, you ain't going. If it's like because I'm more of a dog guy, so I'm like, I'm trying to think like if it's like I ain't never had no connection with no other animals like cats and gerbils and stuff like that. But dogs, on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, I had a few dogs in my life. And it's one of those things where I'm like, I don't think I'll be able to do that. I don't think I'll be able to give up my dog because she don't like dogs. I'm like, okay, well, explain to me why you don't like dogs, because that's what I would like to know. I would like to know a backstory. But if you're all like, oh, I just don't like dogs, I'm like, that I'm not gonna get rid of my dog because you just don't like dogs. Now, if it's like some traumatizing story, then I'm like, okay, I will let's work on that, And she's all like, no, I won't work on it. Now I'm like, okay, I'm still not gonna give up my dog. I'm like, I don't know. Maybe it might be a thing where it's if my family could take them, but that's the thing. I'm like, that shouldn't be left up to them. So it definitely would be one of those things where I'm like, if we can't work things out, then the relationship ain't gonna last. But it's like, I'm not just gonna give up my dog and stuff just because. But nah. So anyways, the story is titled, because this is a pretty long one, so I'm like, I'm gonna probably be doing some. This is gonna probably be the only one that I read throughout this relationship advice thing. But I'll be like trying to like pause and kind of elaborate or talk on, add my 2 cents to some of the paragraphs and stuff. So anyways, but it's titled, my boyfriend gave me an ultimatum, him or my dogs, and I don't know how to handle his riggedy rigidity. I don't know, whatever that word is anymore. But then the person goes on to say, hi everyone, I'm looking for perspective because I feel completely stuck. And that's one of those things. I'm like, you shouldn't feel. Let's overall read. Let's see what she goes on to say. But she goes on to say, my boyfriend and I have been together for about 10 months, but we've known each other for almost 2 years as close friends and dance partners. So it's like he should know that you got dogs and stuff. I mean, like that I find that kind of crazy. You know of this individual, you know what they're about. That's something where it's like, nah, you need to be mentally preparing yourself for being around dogs. Maybe if he's allergic or something, I don't know. But anyways, but then she goes on to say, our connection has always been deep. We communicate well, care for each other, and when things are good, it feels like we're genuinely a team. But there's one issue that keeps coming back, and it's now become an ultimatum. My dogs. He's made it clear that he can't live with them. He says he can't stand the smell, the hair, or the idea of the mess. Even the possibility of something like scratches or accidents stresses him out. He also says he doesn't want to, quote unquote, feel guilty when I'm tired and need help, because he doesn't want to go against his principles and help with them at all. That's kind of crazy. I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, I guess to put myself in his shoes, like, I'm not really a cat guy, but I'm not going to be like, oh, you got to get rid of your cats in order for us to go further with our relationship. I'm like, fam, it's one of those things where I'm all like, okay, I don't like cat. And it's funny how that be working out too, because you'll see like them like TikToks and social media posts where it's all like, oh, the such and such didn't want a dog, and then you look and they be all like snuggled up with them watching TV and things, giving them pillows and covers, and it's funny how that works out. But I ain't saying that's like that with everybody, but I'm like, it's like that in some cases. But anyways, then she goes on to say, at first he said he was open to trying and wanted to see how it would go. We keep up with the compromises or solutions, like building an outdoor space or a sunroof for the dogs, keeping them mostly outside, me taking full responsibility, even having them stay with my parents part of the time. Every time he agreed for a while, and then later he would pull back again and say it didn't bring him peace. That's just crazy. Cause I'm like, fam, what's your issue with dogs? It's like, and I'm not trying to hear no like, oh, I don't want to take care of them. I'm afraid that fam, here's the thing. I've been scratched by dogs. I've been bit by dogs. I have been chased by dogs. I'm trying to think what else. Like, I know people probably be all like, and after all that, you're still a dog guy. Yes, because here's the thing. There are some crazy dogs out there. I ain't gonna lie. We got some dogs out there that's like a Cujo respawn, all right? But that's not all dogs. And so my thing is this. If the dogs, it would be one thing if it was like you and the dogs wasn't seeing eye to eye. That, like I said, they don't know what's going on. So it's just, they find it weird, but talking on the dogs, but I'm like, fam, it's like you're trying to have this issue that doesn't need to be an issue. Like, that's what I'm trying to figure out. It's like you signed up to be in this relationship, yet you're trying to change things like, oh, her getting rid of her dogs. And it's like, if she done had her dogs a lot longer than knowing you, and even if it is on some stuff where it's like, yeah, let's say she met you a day before she got her dog, still she done built a bond with them, and it's like, and to have it where it's like, and I know there's going to be people out there where there's like, human bonds and dog bonds are two different things. And to whoever that person is that's having a bond between dogs and humans, it's really up to them on who they have a stronger bond with. So I think it's, that's what I would say to the individual that's writing this out. I'm like, it's like, do you feel closer with them dogs or with this individual? Because I'm like, then, yeah, at that point, you are going to have to make a choice. But if you feel closer with him, or with them dogs, I'm like, okay, then choice is made. It's like, I'm like, bro, it's either you respect my living situations with these dogs, or you can leave, bruh. But anyways, but then I lost my place. Okay, no, I found it. So, then she goes on to say, he told me he wants a quote unquote simple life, and the thought of dogs adds stress, but the pattern goes deeper than just the dogs. Whenever something happens that makes him feel restricted or out of control, he becomes uncomfortable and distant. If plans change unexpectedly, or I ask for small favors, he gets frustrated. Even little things like wanting to stop at home before going somewhere can make him feel trapped. No, yeah, this guy is just crazy. He's just weird. It's one of those things. I'm like, to whoever this guy is, he seems like he got too much going on. And I'm like, yeah, I wouldn't want to be in a relationship with somebody like that. I'm like, nah. If she gets stressed out over the smallest things, and I have dogs and she's tripping over that, and it's like, yeah, I'm like, that's doing too much. I'm like, this ain't gonna work. We could continue being dance partners, but as far as like relationships and all that stuff, I'm like, nah, she had to go. I'm like, that's just way too, you're stressing me out based off of your stress. And I'm like, I ain't trying to have that. I ain't trying to have it where I get unwanted amount, or like this unnecessary amounts of stress. And I'm like, fam, what's going on here? So, but anyways, then she goes on to say he admits that he feels bad when he sees me tired, because he knows helping would make things easier for me, but he quote unquote doesn't want to do it out of principle. I find that silly. I'm like, either help or don't. But I'm like, you're like out of principles. I guess for me, I ain't never heard of no stuff like that. So I'm like, you're gonna have to sit down and explain that one to me. But anyways, then I guess like he's trying to say like it's not his job to help, but he wants to help because he knows that's just still stupid. I'm like, like I said, that guy, he's just gonna have to explain that, because I'm like, that's just silly. But then she goes on to say, he says if he does it anyways, he'll resent it. So in his mind, it's better to not do it at all. So he also said he knows in both cases he feels bad, even though he even said something like, if I broke my leg, he wouldn't walk the dogs because a deal is a deal, quote unquote. A deal is a deal. This guy is weird. I'm like, at times, I be like reading this stuff, and I'm like, this has to be fake, because I'm like, there's no way that somebody would think that. I'm like, you done broke your leg, and he's all like, oh no, I got to stay to the code. I'm like, a deal is a deal. I said I wouldn't help, and I'm like, yeah, that man, he ain't trying to. I don't know what his intentions are with that relationship. Maybe just for bragging rights to say that he's in a relationship, but it's like, that's not, and I mean, at the end end of the day, it's really up to you guys, like, on whether you want to help each other or not help each other. But at the same time, I'm like, fam, I just couldn't say no stuff like that. I'm like, I couldn't even say no stuff like that to a friend. So I'm like, yeah, that's one of those things where I'm like, I just find that silly. I'm like, you're like making it like it's a game or something. I'm like, fam, a relationship ain't no game. You can't be all like, oh, this is the, like, I'm breaking the rules if I do this. It's like, yeah, bro, that guy, he doesn't want to be in a relationship. I think he wants to, but just for like bragging rights, just to tell his friends like, oh yeah, I'm in a relationship with that one girl and stuff. So, but anyways, then she goes on to say, but he also knows it would then fall onto him, and he doesn't want that. It's like he's allergic to any situation that requires flexibility or emotional labor. Yeah, he sounds like Macaulay Culkin when he was in My Girl, just allergic to everything. I'm like, then bro, get stung by a bunch of bees then. I'm like, go out into the woods, find a mood ring, and get stung by a bunch of bees, because I'm like, you got too much going on and stuff. But anyways, no, I'm playing. I take that back. I know people are like, whoa, what are you saying? I'm like, I'm cracking a joke. Everybody calm down. I'm like, I'm not telling him to do so. I was just cracking a joke referencing that movie, okay? To whoever this guy is, my only advice to him is either break up or continue on, but you are gonna have to take on some responsibilities and stuff. But anyways, but then she goes on to say, what hurt most is that I can see how hard he's trying to feel in control of his life, but I wish he could see that life isn't controllable. I think the dogs are just a bigger trigger for a deeper discomfort. They represent unpredictability, responsibility, and the need to rely on others. And instead of looking at why that scares him, he just tells himself, I can't do this, I don't like it. So my question is, because it's like, okay, if that's on the table where he wants to have kids, but I guess I will bring that up too, because I mean, yeah, it'd be at times people might just want to be in a relationship but they don't want kids and stuff. But I'm like, let's just say if that did come up where it's like, because yeah, at times I'm like unplanned parenthood and stuff, like you don't really, and it's one of those things where it's like, let's just point out or paint out that scenario where it's like he says he don't want kids but you want to keep the kid, and so it's like, are you going to go through that, I guess, like struggle of what do they call it, where it's abortion? I don't know why that wasn't coming to mind, but it's like, are you going to do that for his needs? Because I'm like, fam, if you want to bring a kid into this world, you should be able to bring a kid into this world. But it's like, if he's all like, oh, I don't want to take care of it because it's too much of a responsibility and stuff, yeah, and that's what it sounds like. He just doesn't want to have no responsibilities like that. And it's like, okay, well, fam, like at times, it's gonna happen. Like you can't really fight it or go against it or whatever. It's like at times stuff like that is gonna happen. So it's like, if you ain't trying to be responsible and taking care, my thing is this, and I feel like that should show that you're a good significant other if you are willing to do some stuff like that. So like, let's say she did break her leg and she needs help walking the dogs, taking care of them and all that stuff. Me, if I'm trying to be a good significant other, I'm like, fam, I've been doing that without her leg being broken in the first place. But yeah, it like I said, it sounds like he just only wants to be in a relationship for bragging rights and stuff. So, but anyways, then she goes on to say, so she was all like, instead of looking at why that scares him, he just tells himself, I can't do this, I don't like it. So then she goes on to say, when we talk about it, he tells me he's been thinking about it for weeks and can't find peace with the idea of living with dogs for years. He says it's not me. And here's the thing, maybe it could be a situation where he doesn't want, I guess, to like grow attached to the dogs, and then something ends up happening to them. Because I just remember that one movie, Marley and Me and stuff, and how that movie, how it ended, like how it started off, and it's like, okay, it's just a guy getting the dog, but how it ended, it was like, it was somebody losing their best friend. And a lot of the times I'm like, it be like that with animals and stuff, and I'm like, that's just one of those things, you just got to process and deal with. Yes, it is hard, but at the same time, it's like, you got to process and deal with it, because it's just like, it's right up there with like losing a friend or a family member. It's like, this is somebody that you close with, and I don't know if he's ever dealt with that before, but maybe he has, and that's why he's all like, I don't want it to, be with a dog that I'm close with and stuff, because that can, I guess, maybe mentally do some damage to him. But yeah, I don't know. I'm like, that could be the case. But anyways, he says, or she said that he says it's not me. but that he doesn't see how we can work long term if our lifestyles are so different. But I've tried every compromise I can think of, and he refuses them all. I love him deeply, but I feel like I'm walking on eggshells around his discomfort. I can't express too much emotion or he shuts down. I can't ask for help without him feeling trapped. It's exhausting, and yet I keep trying because I can see the person he is underneath the fear. Someone who is warm, loving, and gentle when he feels safe. Yeah, now that guy, it's just not, he's weird. I'm like, the thing is this, I'm like, you shouldn't be thinking along the lines like how you're thinking and stuff. Like, it shouldn't even be a Reddit post. I'm like, if you guys are in a good relationship, then I'm like, you wouldn't even be jumping to Reddit or relationship advice and stuff. You would just be living out your days with the relationship. So yeah, I'm like, nah, this guy, it's a negative and a positive, and it's trying to equal a positive. That ain't possible. So, but anyways, she goes on to say, I just don't know what to do anymore. I can't imagine giving up my dogs, but I also don't want to lose him. Has anyone ever been with someone like this who's so rigid that that compromise feels impossible? Can people like that change? Or am I setting myself up for years of walking on eggshells? I don't need him to do any more work for them. I would take the responsibility, but I don't feel like I could be with someone who can't accept that and be a bit flexible and help me out as a partner when needed. Also, people around haven't been telling me to leave him because it says live. So I was like, yeah, sometimes I think people be typing too fast, and then I'm like, they misspell something or mess up on something. I'm like, wait, what? So, but to leave him because if he truly loved me, he would have learned to accept it. Yeah, and I'm like, fam, I'm like, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, you just learn to accept those things. Because I'm like, and that's somewhere I'm like, I know people probably like, so let's say if whoever my significant other is, like, let's say she has like a pet tarantula or something, and I'm like, that's one of those things where I'm like, no, that's a no can do. That ain't gonna happen. But here's the thing though, before he even gets to a situation where we done got into a relationship, if she tells me, oh, I have a pet tarantula, I'm letting her know right then and there that's not gonna work out, because I'm not trying to come home and then you sitting there holding like a net and then a crate or a box or something talking about, hey, it got loose. I'm like, yeah, I think it's probably best if I come by a different day or something, because I ain't gonna help you catch no tarantula. But that's the thing, and I'm like, and if you're expecting me to, I'm like, that's like I said, it's a no can do. I'm like, I ain't gonna let you end the relationship. I'm gonna end the relationship, because I'm like, yeah, that's just. But that's the thing though, if you are, I guess, good at communicating, if you good at letting your feelings out, then yeah, it's stuff like that where I'm like, but I guess like when it comes, I guess like maybe if it's an animal a little bit more normal, like cats or something, I ain't got no fear over no big cat or no giant, yeah, maybe a lion or a tiger or something like that. But I'm like, as far as like one of them like house cats, and that's the thing too, like if the cat's normal with me, if it's cool, if it ain't scratching me and acting crazy and being all violent and all that stuff, like let's say if I'm sitting down playing the game or watching a movie or a TV show and the cat comes by and it lays on me, yeah, probably at first I'm gonna be like, I don't know what to do, but I look at it, it's like, okay, this cat feels safe with me, so I'm like, all right, I'm like, let's just kind of like work towards this, like baby steps and stuff. I'm like, yeah, that's a movie that guy should maybe watch. He should watch that movie, What About Bob. It might not, I don't know if it'll help with the current situation, but I'm like, he might get some answers that he's looking for and stuff. But yeah, other than that, I'm like, it's one of those things where I'm like, he's just doing too much and stuff. So, but there are some other things that she writes out, and I think it's just more so kind of to clarify and update some things. But excuse me, but yeah, it's like she's it doesn't really look like it's no new information and stuff, but she goes on and saying, like, and lastly, he loves animals, just not having them himself. That don't even make no sense. I'm like, that's one of those things. I'm like, yeah, that guy is just weird. I'm like, that's all I gotta say about that. That guy is weird. And so, hold on for a second. Let me think of something. This guy sounds like he wants to be in a relationship for bragging rights and not so much as being a significant misspell significant, but we just gonna let that autocorrect. Significant other. Like, you should really, this was posted some time ago too. This is like 16 days ago. So I am mad late on this. You should really talk with him about, about keeping your dogs. If he doesn't accept you and your situation, then it might be best to remain friends. Comments, post, yeah, we good on that. But yeah, that's silly. I'm like, I ain't gonna sit here and give up my dogs because you don't you don't want to be responsible for them and stuff. I'm like, you don't have to be, but I'm like, I ain't gonna get them. That's the crazy thing about it. It's like, you don't want to be responsible with them, but also you don't even want them to be in the same house as you. Yeah, no, that ain't gonna work. I'm like, that's definitely not gonna work. I ain't gonna give up my dogs just because you don't like dogs and stuff. So I'm like, if you don't like dogs, then I'm like, have a conversation with God, pray on it and stuff, and then see where it goes from there. But anyways, I ain't giving up my dogs. I know that much. So, but anyways, with that being said, I will talk to y'all later. Thank you guys for watching and or listening. Stay tuned for the next episode. Stay tuned for some more relationship advice episodes. Like, subscribe, viewing this on YouTube. Follow, subscribe, viewing this on the podcast streaming service. And peace.